Hey everyone, my name is Ella and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm walking you through the process that I use to get a high distinction for a literature review, including what to do right from when you first get the assignment through to planning out the writing. Also, if you're interested in literature reviews, then stick around because in the next video, I'll be looking at some of my actual literature reviews that I handed in as an undergraduate, so you can get more of a visual understanding. But before I get into it all, I want to give you a brief intro to me and why I'm qualified to talk about these things. I graduated my undergraduate and honours degree with high distinctions in every subject. I was paid by my university for over 2 years to help other students write better assignments and achieve better grades. I've also worked in research as a data analyst, so I understand the research side of things and how to critique journal articles. Additionally, I've worked as an academic librarian at a university, helping PhD students perform and write literature reviews and systematic reviews. But the best thing is I've gone back to university to study a different field, so I'm sympathetic to you. I understand that you, like me, are probably time poor, so let's get into it. I've broken the process down into 5 main steps. Some of them simple, some not so simple. The first is to decide how many paragraphs you'll have, so you know how many subtopics you need to write about, and therefore research. 2, how to perform an initial literature search, and I'll show you how to link Google Scholar with your university's library account for easy access if you prefer that method. 3, perform more specific literature searches after you know what your subtopics are going to be. And 4, how to understand all of the literature by viewing it all on one page. And 5, using that to weave a coherent story. The first thing you should do when you get your assignment is decide on the number of paragraphs, as this influences how many subtopics you'll need to research and write about. The general rule is 80-20. 80% of your total word count should be in the body of the literature review, with 10% for the introduction and another 10% for the conclusion. If each paragraph is approximately 150 to 200 words, then a 1,000 word literature review will have anywhere from 3 to 5 paragraphs. Because it's a literature review and not an essay, you're going to be linking a lot of literature together, so I'd normally opt for the smaller number of paragraphs, but it's up to you and somewhat dependent on your topic. The second step is to perform an initial literature search. You can do this using either your library's homepage or Google Scholar. Type in 1 to 3 words that best describes your topic. For example, if my literature review is on the etiology of schizophrenia, I might type in schizophrenia etiology. You might want to restrict your results to peer-reviewed journals only and those published in the last 5 to 10 years. To get more relevant results, you may also want to jump on the advanced search and restrict your keywords to appear only in the title. This will reduce the total number of results you see. Alternatively, you can do this using Google Scholar, which some people prefer. Make sure you link your university's library with Google Scholar so that you can actually access the articles. To do this, click on the 3 horizontal bars and go to Settings, Library Links. Search for the name of your university, check the box next to it, and then hit Save. Now, when you search Google Scholar, you'll see either a link to the PDF or check for the full text. Click on these to access the articles using your university's account. From here, you can download the PDF. If you're using EndNote or Mendeley or another referencing software, you can click on EndNote Desktop or EndNote Web, depending on what you're using, or copy and paste the citation into a Word document. Once you've skimmed over a few articles from your initial literature search, you'll want to jot down the possible subtopics you could write about and use these subtopics to perform an in-depth literature search on each one individually. It's pretty easy to see that with the topic of the etiology of schizophrenia, I'll want to break that up into at least genetic and psychosocial factors. So I could perform separate literature searches using keywords schizophrenia genes, schizophrenia psychosocial. However, for many topics, you probably won't know what these subtopics will be until you've skimmed the literature. This was a big mistake that I saw new students make all the time, deciding on what to write about a topic that they weren't experts in before they had done a basic literature search. Use this time to learn some cool new things, perhaps of things that you hadn't thought about. Pro tip here, I'll also mention that students who get high distinctions or A stars at their university for literature reviews almost always have used a ton of references. This isn't always true for lab reports or essays, but it is true for literature reviews because what you're doing is reviewing the literature, reviewing what's out there. So you need to have a ton of references. For a tiny literature review of 1,000 words, I'd aim to use over 20 at least. A good way to use more references is to add in multiple references into the one statement. This shows more consensus in the literature and doesn't eat up too much of your word count if you're using in-text citations. Now, this is one of the most important things. Now that we've got all the literature sitting away in some little folder somewhere, how can we put it all together? For me, it helps to see all the information in one place. In an Excel document, I write the title, year, article type, aims, methodology, findings, and limitations all in one place, as well as the type of subtopic that it fits into. Now you can click on one of the headings and go to filter. Now you're able to filter all the subtopics you'll use to construct your paragraphs and see all the important info, including the findings, all in one place. From here, you'll be able to spot patterns, find where studies agree or disagree, and find a logical flow to your literature review. This really is where all the magic happens. Finally, weave the articles into a coherent story. Remember that in a literature review, you're not arguing for a specific point. You're telling a story about what the literature says is out there, its strengths and weaknesses, and forming a conclusion based on these things. Look out for any overarching themes, as well as where the literature agrees or disagrees. If the literature agrees, state this. It's a stronger indication that the theory is correct. Or if it disagrees, this is a perfect chance to state that it disagrees and offer up an explanation on why that might be. Also remember that there's different forms of evidence. Meta-analyses are considered the strongest type of evidence, then randomized controlled trials, then non-randomized controlled trials, then case studies. It's often the case that something can't be studied experimentally for ethical reasons, and in these cases, look out for longitudinal designs which can offer some insight into causation. Also note that the number of participants in a study will affect the outcome. More participants is considered better because it gives us more statistical power to find real small world effects that would otherwise be missed, and it's also less likely to be influenced by a few non-typical responses. Lastly, studies are often done using a subset of a population. This may be a clinical population, such as those with depression, or maybe what we call a weird population. That is, Western, educated, industrialized, and rich and democratic. Findings from these studies probably aren't generalizable to other populations, so just be mindful of that. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell.